Hey everyone, Mike Vogel here for the Monumental Sports Network, and it's been less than a month since the Caps hoisted the Stanley Cup in Las Vegas on June 7th, but it's been a busy three and a half, 4 weeks since then, culminating on Friday with the announcement that Todd Reirden is the 18th coach in Washington Capitals history. And Todd, first of all, congratulations. I know you've worked to this point, to get to this point for a long time now. First off, what do you see as the biggest challenge here in taking over this team with a short summer ahead?
June was a pretty good month for the Capitals and myself, but it's pushed our schedule into a shortened period here. Definitely going to be a different summer than we've had in the past. It's an exciting time moving forward here with our plans and putting together a staff and making some adjustments to our roster that we need to do. So, a little bit of a fast forward in terms of some things we had ideally planned for earlier in the summer, but glad to have this situation that we presently have. So I think it's just so exciting, the direction our team is going, and the city and the fans and what's gone on in this area. It's just great to be a part of, and those things will fall into place as we move forward here.
And you mentioned the staff. I feel like that's one of the things that's a little bit quirky about the situation. Is usually coaching changes happen a little earlier in the hockey calendar, both head coaching and assistant coaching. So a lot of guys who were maybe let go by other teams have already landed in spots too. How much of a challenge do you think it'll be to fill out a coaching staff? Sounds like you'll have to replace yourself and then maybe add another assistant as well.
Yeah, I think that's the game plan, and just talking with Brian and just doing a little bit of inventory with the remaining staff that we have, whether it's the equipment staff or athletic staff, the strength coach, just a feel for what we what they didn't like about our staff that we had in the past season. And I'm just really concerned about getting some people around me that enjoy coming to the rink, that love to work, and want to get better. And not only get better themselves, but are people that can challenge me to get better. I'm still consider myself a project as well as a coach, and want to grow and improve every day. So it's important for me to get someone that can improve me and help me make me better. So it is a little bit some different coaches that you may have had in mind have gone on other spots, and that's the pitfalls of being Stanley Cup champs, is you get a little bit of a late start on that. But I gladly will trade places. Wouldn't trade places with anybody, that's for sure. It's an awesome situation to be going through, and something that I think we're already on the started that process, and are excited about some people to add to our mix to continue to help us grow.
My tenure here covering the Capitals goes back to Jim Schoenfeld. He was the head coach when I started here in 1995, and I've said for the last 4 years that I don't think that I've ever seen a better coaching unit, coaching staff than what you guys have had here over the last 4 years. And obviously you'll carry forward with a lot of that. But how important is chemistry, like you said, having that work ethic, guys that do want to get to the rink early and do embrace the challenge of looking at video late night on plane rides and all the behind the scenes work that goes into you guys doing what you do?
I feel that was a large component in how our staff was able to have success, and hand in hand it followed with our team success, was how we prepared and the work we did behind the scenes to best prepare our players, whether it was individually or as a team. And I think that the work ethic that our staff had here over the last 4 years was unmatched, and I feel like the players going into games felt like they had an advantage, and that's something that has always been something I've been proud of, and trying to make sure that nothing surprises our players when they go into a game. And having been a part of that with the defensemen and doing pre-scout information for the players, and working on different situations with the power play and 5-on-6 at the end of games, I've been able to to talk to a lot of players, not just the defensemen through the season, and they got a little bit of a taste of what goes into the work behind the scenes, and they have a really good understanding, and I think of the fact that we put a lot of time and effort into it. But more so than that, they're confident that they have all the information they need to start a game, and that's something I want to continue, and is going to be huge for me. And we're not going to be outworked, and we're going to set the work ethic and for our entire organization with the coaching. And that's something I'll continue to try to find the right people to do that, and people that are passionate about it, and passionate about making our team better, passionate about making our players better, passionate about how they act within the community and conduct themselves, and people that can continue to push our organization forward here in the near future.
I fully agree with what you said about players being prepared and ready and having a little bit of an advantage. Some of them even mentioned that on occasion over the course of not just last season, but the last several seasons. When you look at the season ahead and the short summer, and the fact that you're taking over a team here that's averaged 111 points and coming off a cup title, certainly there's a lot that you'd want to carry forth. But you also want to put your own imprint, your own stamp on a team. How do you manage those two things? Keeping what's good about this team and this group and what you guys have done over the last 4 years, but putting your own spin and your own imprimatur on this thing.
It's a unique situation we're going through here. It's not very often that you have a situation where, as a new coach, you're coming in and taking over the defending Stanley Cup champs. So it's something I spent, some time with and done some research with and preparing for this opportunity, and it's a different opportunity than happens a lot. So when you're going in after a failure or something doesn't work out right, then you're looking to make a lot of changes and things that didn't work, obviously. But this is a situation where things did work, and systematically in the ways that we did our video and prepared our players and established relationships and types of things that we did, those were things that were decided upon as our staff. And I thought that Barry Trotz did a phenomenal job of delegating responsibility to each of the staff members and allowing us to have a lot of say-so in those areas, but also be involved in decisions as a group. So the majority of the things that we were doing as a team in the past year that allowed us to have that success were things that were decided upon as a staff. And yes, Barry had final say-so, but it was stuff that was created by our staff, assistant coaches, video coaches, coming together on ideas and coming up with a game plan that we would present to the players, and even strategies to how to improve individual players and how to force them to continue to grow dependent upon their age and where they're at with their own development. So I think for me, it's taken the next step and trying to find to put my own identity on it. It's not going to be probably as bold as complete overhaul of changes because of the success we had. But there's going to be some things that you've seen bits and pieces of through my roles and my responsibilities that will be taking shape with the whole group. I think that the idea that we're going to be passionate and not outworked will be a large component of how we move forward here. I think the fact that the preparation, will be unmatched by any other team in the league in terms of what we're going to do, and the idea that you come to the rink every day with the idea that you're going to improve and get a little bit better has been a key one, not just for our players, but I feel as though our staff as well. So these are some of the things that I want to continue to implement and kind of have as my calling card that kind of back up the passion level that I bring to the rink every day. There's certainly, I don't feel a misunderstanding of the care factor that I have in making these players better, the honesty that I approach them with, the true evaluation of their own games and having them have a clear understanding of what's expected from them as players, I think are important characteristics that need to continue to be pushed forward and can be done differently. The challenge, I feel, is going to be able to create an environment where players love to come to work every day, love to be a part, love to be together. We've been very fortunate that a lot of our players that we had in potential to lose through free agency have decided to come back and stay with our club, and you know, that's exciting, and many of them have taken pay cuts to do it because they want to be a part of this group. Now it's my job to make sure that that group is challenged differently every day. It's not, when you have the same group back, you already have developed some chemistry in your room, but now how do I take that chemistry and push it to the next level and the new challenges that are in front of them? And that's being creative in terms of how we're practicing and how we're preparing in different film sessions and different things that I've already planned on the schedule for different travel setups, and to keep things fresh with the same returning group. So, you know, I think those are some of the ideas that I have moving forward, and you'll be able to see progress as we get ready to embark on the next season.
You've been coaching for more than a decade, but before that, you, including your time at Bowling Green, played for a decade and a half. When you're wearing your coaching hat, you're on the ice, you're teaching, coaching players, whose voices do you hear in your head as far as guys who coached you along the way? Who's had the most influence on your coaching style, would you say, and in what ways?
Yeah, I mean, I played for a lot of coaches, so along the way it's been a lot of different places on this path. It certainly wasn't an easy journey, but I think I tried to take, you know, things from every coach that I played for. For some reason, I've always been kind of drawn to that side of things, probably into my third and fourth year of playing as a professional. You know, I stayed in contact with my college coach, Jerry York, who's one of the best college coaches in the history of college hockey, and been fortunate to stay in contact with him. I thought he gave me the initial, you know, I'd say initial foundation for how to have success and develop not just hockey players but young people, and that one's been really key for me, is the way he developed young men, and at a very difficult time, and when players are first moving away from home and going through situations and ups and downs of being on their own for the first time in a college environment. So I learned a lot from him in terms of you know, people skills and how to grow young people and help them along the way. And then, you know, in terms of pro coaches, you know, there's been, like I said, many of them that, you know, minor league coaches that I had, you know, someone like Todd McClellan for me was, you know, the coach of the Edmonton Oilers now, had a big role in that, some of my understanding and decisions that coaches make and why they make them. It was a unique situation that Todd and I worked together in, and that was during the strike/lockout situation, and I was in Houston playing for the Arrows in the American Hockey League, and it was a dual affiliate at that time between the Minnesota Wild and the Houston Arrows, and Todd was the head coach, and you know, there's an abundance of excellent hockey players that were playing in the American Hockey League that year, and I had you know, already had spent some time you know, as an older player, and where I was going to fit into that team game plan. I think he, you know, made me a part of the leadership group, you know, wore a letter for his team, but sometimes I didn't play. And that was a decision that was made based upon the development of these young players that had to be ready to go into situations where if the NHL started, were going to be large parts of the Minnesota Wild or the Dallas Stars, and you know, some great players like Mikko Koivu was there, Mike Smith was there, Brent Burns. You know, I can go down the list of guys that really were, you know, went right from that situation into being full-time NHLers. So, you know, he helped me understand that some things you have to do and how you could do that development-wise. And I had a bad injury where I was out for 4 weeks, and he said, you know, we've got so many players around here. What do you think about looking at some video and trying to help out some players that we've been calling up from the East Coast League? And he said, I'd like to, you know, show you kind of how we process video here and get going with it. And I think he was the one that first, you know, enlightened me to another way of furthering my love for the game of hockey and passion for being a part of it, and the idea of making players better and how you could do it, and the role I was going to have in it. So he was big in terms of that. You go into a guy like Brad Shaw, who was my coach in Cincinnati, who's gone on to be a head coach in the league, and in Cincinnati, he was had a large impact on some things with me as I was on my way down from the NHL, and how to deal with young players, and the difference you have a choice of whether to help make those players better or sabotage their career, and it was never a question for me. I was always a big brother for those guys, and even though they were technically taking my job, I was at a point in my career where I wanted to help make them better, as some players had done for me. So I think if I'm looking at National Hockey League coaches for myself, Joel Quenneville was one that had a huge impact on me, and really how he was able to establish a winning culture and still develop players. And winning a President's Trophy with him in St. Louis was a big part of my career, for him giving young player an opportunity to still play in the league. And he made me better at the age of 27, 28 years old, and that's kind of unheard of. So I loved his approach with me. It was from the minute I walked in after they picked me up on waivers from the Edmonton Oilers, he was completely honest. Said, "This is what I have planned for you. This is what can happen, and good luck." And it was gave me a clear vision, but at the same time helped me understand that it was in my own hands to see what I did from there. And that honesty and continued as he told me that I could eventually find a home to live in St. Louis, and I was going to stay for the rest of the year, and ups and downs. And we have this idea that you could play with Chris Pronger this year, and you guys would be a great pair, and gave me the opportunity to do that. He thought outside the box. No one thought that Todd Reirden should be playing with Chris Pronger, but for some reason it worked, and he let it play out, and sure enough, obviously Chris had a phenomenal season that year, winning the Norris Trophy and the MVP, and then, like I said, our team won the President's Trophy. But I like the fact that he dealt with players with honesty. Some days it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to hear every day, and it was a tough message, but at least I knew at the end of the day where I stood, and I really have pushed that one along in my coaching career. As the players, at least they understood where they stand. And nothing worse I felt as a player than going home at night and you're staring at your ceiling fan or your bedroom light, and you're like, is he happy with me? Is he not happy with me? Am I playing tomorrow? Am I not? Am I on the power play? Like, where you waste a lot of energy, mental stress on that, and good or bad, at least I knew what my plan was going into the next day, and how to go about my business. That's been a really important one for me. So those were coaches that had a big impact on me, and continue to have a big impact on me. And certainly the coaches that I've worked with, as a young coach, starting off with Todd Richards for a small period of time in Wilkes-Barre, and then moving forward with Dan Bilesma as my head coach in Wilkes-Barre, and then further along in Pittsburgh, were excellent, detailed guys, and have really given me the idea of how to improve players through the simplest of details, the attention to detail, the specifics of how to improve players. I learned a lot initially from Todd. He moved on, and then I fell under Dan Bilesma's watch, and he's had a huge impact on my coaching career, and the passion level that he came to work with every day. But for me, it was the specifics of how to teach players and show them that the smallest details have a large impact in players' development, and have a large impact on your whole team's development if you can get everyone to realize those small details and focus on them. So, and then moving into my situation here, I was so lucky to have Barry Trotz reach out to me and give me an opportunity to come here and be a part of what we were going to do in Washington. And having coached against this team, I had a lot of you know, understanding of maybe some areas where they could improve, and I was excited to come in and share those ideas and get with an experienced coach like Barry Trotz, that's so respected throughout the league as not only a phenomenal human being, but a great coach of the game. And he gave me an opportunity to join his staff, and you know, the things that he's been able to share with me, and the experiences I've been able to go through and grow with him over the last 4 years, I can't thank him enough, because he's allowed me to work. He's allowed me to work, have responsibilities, and really prepare me probably the most for this situation of taking over as the head coach here. I've had the ability to deal with all players and in all different areas of the game, and I've been able to establish relationships because of that with the players, and I think it's really going to ease in the transition of me becoming a head coach here.
You touched on so many things there that are some of the greatest things about our game, and I got to think it's really gratifying for guys like Joel Quenneville and Todd McClellan today that you've joined their ranks and that they had that effect on you. And I look forward to 20 years from now when we find out which members of the current Capitals will go on to become head coaches, and they'll cite you as a guy who was instrumental in that development and that choice. So thanks to Todd Reirden for spending some time with us today here on the Monumental Sports Network, and we wish you luck in the years and hopefully many years ahead as head coach of the Washington Capitals.
Thanks for the time, Mike.